Welcome into PJ's Coffee on Airline Drive, where myself and Mike Triplett are joining you live on NewOrleans.Football. One final day to break down this matchup between the Colts and Saints with a New Orleans team that is truly looking to get back on track and back in the win column.
Yeah, we are here at PJ's on Airline, our home away from home. They are our presenting sponsor. And I think, you know, when I was talking about if you need to pick me up, if you need your coffee, when we're in here, it's the smell of PJ's.
I
think it's their number one.
It's the best.
And it's not just the coffee, it's the food in here. Look, we are sponsored by PJ's. We're also in the mobile Turo Hospital studio. All your medical needs, Turo Hospital, the LCMC Medical Network. Our colleague Nick Underhill might be there right now, for all we know. And as always, we're sponsored by Matt Bauer's Auto Group. He's a friend to the show. Nick gets all his cars there.
Yes.
Matt Bauer's Auto Group, but they have locations all over the Gulf Coast region, all different kinds of cars, the best car buying experience you'll find anywhere. Let's get into the ads.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com.
For fast relief coffee.
Mike Hoss here. When the AC goes out and it's hot outside, every second counts. For over 40 years, Keefe's AC Heating and Electrical has helped thousands of families stay cool in the sizzling hot months. Keefe's Get You Cool in 3 hours or less guarantee is what our customers love the most on the North or South Shore. Call Keefe's. We'll get you cool in 3 hours or less guaranteed.
Keefe's Air Conditioning and Heating.
And now electrical.
For fast relief coffee.
Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner, as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
All right, let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is also home to a new engagement salon where they have a wide selection of beautiful engagement rings. And while you're there, ask them about their fleur-de-lis collection of earrings and necklace that you see here. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. All right, it's just going to be me and Mike for this show today. Mike, let's go ahead and start with our lead topic. Can the Saints end their losing streak in Indy?
The schedule keeps trying to give them opportunities to do so, but that has not mattered all year. So I'd like to say yes. I like this matchup a lot for the Saints. The run defense will be tested. Mm-hmm. Indy's offense has been a little more potent than we think, but this is Indy on their backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, a backup quarterback that we saw in Philly last year with this same coach, Shane Steichen, and the Saints tore him apart. And that was, you know, even when the Saints were not playing that well late last year. I think this is a team, if the Saints are going to get right, the matchup should be in their favor. Can we expect the Saints to get right? That is the much bigger question, and that is the one that gives me much less confidence. I don't know. I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
The one thing I don't love about this matchup is that the Colts are the only team in the NFL that have scored at least 20 points in every single game this season. The Saints cannot say the same. We will see if they're able to put up that magic 21 points in this game. But another reason why I'm a little bit nervous about this, it depends on who is healthy on the offensive line. We did get an extended injury report today. This thing is long, so bear with me as we go through it. James Hurst is the only player who is ruled out with that ankle injury. He did not practice all week. Juwan Johnson, that's the bright spot. He was upgraded to full in today's practice on Friday. He will likely be back for the Saints this weekend. Huge. JT Gray, man, this guy can't avoid the injury bug this year. He was limited, then did not practice, and was limited again today, Friday. He is one of several that are listed as questionable. Landon Young, upgraded to full. That's big as far as a backup tackle on this offensive line that is already well depleted. Okay, let's go through all of the questionables. I'm not going to list all their injuries because it's a long list of names. The guys who are questionable: Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, Taysom Hill, Alontae Taylor, Max Garcia, Jimmy Graham, Andres Pete. Max Garcia and Jimmy Graham are the two illnesses that are on this, as well as Marcus May was dealing with a hamstring. Yeah, dealing with a hamstring, but he was missing from practice today. Of course, dealing with this illness, this bug that is going around.
You hear it in voices. Derek Carr obviously had it. Dennis Allen obviously had it at one point.
I dealt with it last week coming back from Houston. There was a lot of people actually
Alvin
that came
Kamara
back from that Houston trip. That are dealing with it. Poor Nick is not here most likely because of it. We hope to get him back in a couple of days, but he's dealing with this bug as well. Is there any of these questionables though that you think might not be playing in this game?
I like a lot of their chances of playing. I'm not sure about May because he had the two different issues and then didn't practice Friday. Everyone else practiced Friday. The big question mark on there for me though was Andres Pete because he was out there when we were watching practice Friday. And then later was added with a new injury, limited participation ankle. I believe I saw him in the locker room, but if that's something that happened during Friday's practice, then we don't have a lot of information about it. But hopefully that's minor because otherwise, who in the world is going to play left tackle for this team? Because they've made it clear they do not want Trevor Penning in there at left tackle. They want Trevor Penning to be working with the scout team, to be taking a step back. And then these injuries across the offensive line keep conspiring to try to throw Trevor Penning back in the lineup. That's not what they want to do. But if it's not Pete, does Cam Irving move from the right side to the left side? He hasn't been practicing. I don't know. But so that's a big question mark if Pete can't go. But that's all the other ones I feel pretty good about.
Let's play the hypothetical. Let's say that James Hurst is out, but let's say that Andres Pete is out as well. Who do you expect to be the tackles?
I think you'd consider Cam Irving at left tackle because he started a lot of games at left tackle in his career. More recently, right tackle. That's what he played last week, starting at right tackle. But otherwise, I think if it's in a pinch and you have to go based on what people have actually I think if at the beginning of the week they might have gone Cam Irving. But if it's Andres Pete gets hurt on a Friday or Andres Pete gets hurt in the first series of the game, then I think it's probably Trevor Penning.
We'll see what happens. Let's get into our key matchups that we always get into on Friday, starting with a big one, the Colts rushing attack versus the Saints rushing defense. Jonathan Taylor, he looked like himself last week. Carried the ball 18 times for 75 yards. We know he missed the beginning of the season, but that 1-2 punch with Zach Moss, who is second right now in the NFL in rushing yards, has been really talented. The Saints' run defense ranks 12th in the league, just under 100 yards, averaging rushing yards per game. But Demario Davis was limited all week with a knee injury. I don't know. This is probably going to be their toughest test yet.
Definitely. I asked Dennis Allen that, but basically I was throwing a softball up during batting practice.
Yeah.
Will this be your toughest test? Absolutely was his answer, though. He didn't hide away from it and try to coach speak it. The thing about Zach Moss is pretty talented, but he got traded away from Buffalo. He didn't have a lot of success early in his career. So that's scary that he became the second leading rusher in the NFL by being a replacement running back for the Colts. That just tells you how good their running game is. And now
their offensive line.
Yeah, their offensive line, just the running game in general. Quentin Nelson, their left guard, maybe when he's at his best, he's the best in the NFL, and he's kind of back to that level this year. And then Jonathan Taylor, now this will be his third game. He missed so much time, but he has ramped back up. The talent is there with him. And the thing that Dennis Allen said that I thought was really interesting is this is a team that will stick with their running game. There's a lot of teams that if you frustrate them early, and the Saints are pretty good at this, then they start passing. The Colts will run. They will keep running. They will be running in the fourth quarter, even if they're down. Even if the Saints, I don't think the Saints will get a 2-score lead because when's the last time we saw that? But they will stubbornly stick with it. So, the Saints' run defense has been better this year than last year and pretty good, but I'm not wowed by the rushing offenses they face. This will absolutely be one that puts them to the test and sticks with it.
Saints' new defensive lineman Colin Saunders also went in great detail about the challenge Jonathan Taylor presents, obviously having faced him when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs last year, taking on the Colts. And he said that Jonathan Taylor is good in all three aspects that a running back has in their bag, and that's not typically something you see. He is somebody who is just capable of doing all the things. And then you add in a guy like Zach Moss who can be that 1-2 punch. You kind of thought you were going to get that with Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams in New Orleans. We haven't necessarily seen it yet because Jamal Williams has been on IR, but it might be a real challenge, and they might exhaust this defense with Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss in this game.
Thank goodness they're not facing Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Because this defense is not ready. We talked about this when the schedule came out. We talked about it early in the season when we were dissecting the defensive line. The biggest problem the Saints defense has had in recent years is rushing quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, nightmares still from the times they faced him. And they were supposed to face Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields in back-to-back weeks. They're not going to have to face either one. Well, actually, I take that back. Justin Fields is a maybe for next week. He's not going to play this week, though. So I'm very curious how they would do because they can't even stop Trevor Lawrence from running. But at least they don't have to face Anthony Richardson, so they can concentrate on a more traditional run game.
Now flipping to our next matchup and literally flipping the script. Now Alvin Kamara against Zaire Franklin. Alvin Kamara had 12 catches and 153 scrimmage yards in Week 7. He's averaging 3.8 yards per carry, though. Can Alvin still produce a takeover game? That's going to be my big question because Zaire Franklin has 11-plus tackles in 6 to 7 games this season, and he leads the NFL with 88 tackles. Here's the deal, though. His game might be more downhill than rangy. The linebacker often gives up a good amount of receptions and yardage, which could be trouble against somebody like Alvin Kamara. So there's kind of two sides to this.
What's funny, last week, Foye Oluokun for the Jaguars.
Unbelievable
was
pronunciation of that game,
and
of that name right there.
I learned it last week because he led the NFL in tackles each of the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and he's second in the league in tackles this year. And you were absolutely right to put him in the rundown last week because what did he do? He had 14 tackles against the Saints. He had the pick six against the Saints. He was the biggest difference maker in that game. We said that before they faced Tampa Bay. They had good linebackers. This is a team with good linebackers. You're right that Zaire Franklin is more of a downhill guy, but it's not just Alvin Kamara. If the Saints can get Alvin Kamara in the second level of the defense, he's a monster. That's a big if. I do not think the Saints' run game has been very good this year. On 1st and 10, it's 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
If they run on 2nd and 10, it's 3rd and 9. They are getting some runs here. I think this week we'll see some Alvin, some Jamal Williams, some Kendra Miller, but they need to be a way better run blocking team, and this is not the matchup that's going to make that easy for them to do it.
You mentioned the run game just kind of struggling this year. I had a chance to talk with running back coach Joel Thomas. That will be up on our website soon. Be sure to check that out. And look, when you have so many guys on the offensive line continuing to switch out, whether that be due to injury or guys getting benched to like Trevor Penning, it is really, really hard to establish a run, especially when it's constant changing of tackles, guards, things of that nature. So I think if the Saints can maybe put together a lineup that they can stick with, at least for the back half of the season, it will help the run game. All right, moving on to our next matchup, DeForest Buckner versus the Saints interior offensive line. Buckner is one of the league's best interior pass rushers, and he's already accumulated 3 sacks and 18 pressures so far this year. 2 weeks ago against the Titans, he racked up 8 pressures. How much trouble are they going to have with him?
They're going to have trouble. Look, the Saints have faced so many good interior defensive tackles this year. And all the other ones lived up to the billing against them this year. So all the same things we just said about the interior offensive line needing to establish a run, they haven't been good enough. Now, Eric McCoy's been a little better in recent weeks. I think Cesar Ruiz has been a little bit better. Max Garcia's now going into his 3rd or 4th game playing substantial time for the Saints. There is some continuity with that trio inside. But if we had a graphic up here where we're giving a check mark to someone in this matchup, that is a huge check mark with a circle and an underline and bold for DeForest Buckner and the Colts.
Here's another question mark. Our next matchup, Saints versus whoever is the third Colts cornerback.
It's a check mark for the Saints. So.
Yeah, that's a All right, Derek Carr has an 82.8 quarterback rating through week 7, which ranks 20th in the NFL. He has 0 interceptions and 100+ rating in 2 of his past 3 road starts. We do know there's been some miscommunication issues with the wide receivers. The Colts are 19th in pass defense, 6 interceptions this season, 27 team passes defended. Now, Kenny Moore and Jalen Jones are the team's top 2 cornerbacks, as we know, and Moore usually covers the slot in the nickel packages. But the Colts don't currently have a good third option at the position after Julian Blackmon, who suffered an Achilles injury last week. Out of Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed, who's going to take advantage of that?
Yeah, they've had a couple guys that were candidates for that third cornerback role get hurt this year.
Yeah.
So that is the take advantage position. Now, unfortunately, we had the exact same conversation with Jacksonville last week, and kind of to Derek Carr's detriment, he kept trying to attack with those fades to the end zone. He was explaining that was the matchup that they really wanted to attack. But obviously that's smart, and other teams have had success. I think the Saints can have success. So that was important what you said. Kenny Moore was probably their best corner. Mm-hmm. Will often move inside the slot when they go into nickel. That's when the new guy will come on and be on the outside. And whoever they get matched up against him, they'll want to take advantage of that matchup. I think they can. The Colts play a lot of zone coverage. I do not, as long as the tape continues to look like that Tampa game and that Jacksonville game, you play cover 2 against the Saints. You do not let Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed get deep. You frustrate Derek Carr. You make him take checkdowns all day, and maybe he'll start throwing it deep out of frustration, trying to force something to happen. That's the blueprint for every single team, and I'm sure the Colts will do the same thing. But that is a matchup where they can win, and now they will have Juwan Johnson in addition to their receivers. Hopefully they can find matchups that win in this game.
I really think Juwan Johnson might be the difference maker in a week like this, where he can kind of open up the middle of the field and you have to account for him. So then it leaves guys like Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, or if Rashid Shaheed is also on the field with Juwan Johnson as well, it could leave those guys open, just because, look, there's going to be some guys out there for the Colts in the secondary that are going to have to account for them that might not be up to the caliber to defend them.
2 things I really want to see. First of all, I feel like this will be a big Michael Thomas week. I think it should be. We say that every week.
I know, we say that every week.
But if you've spent 10 days trying to figure out what should we do more on offense, throw to Michael Thomas more.
Yeah.
He wins. If he is guarded, he wins that battle. He catches everything. But you should get more easier throws to him, too. The other thing I want to do is I want a lot of plays for Chris Olave that look like that 44-yard touchdown pass to Christian Kirk last week. We saw some of those plays with Olave earlier this season. You do not have to throw deep to Chris Olave to get him the ball. You can get him the ball just beyond the line of scrimmage, have him be the guy who's 2 steps in front of a safety and then running free into the middle of the defense. If Juwan Johnson helps create, open that up for some receivers, please get the ball in their hands 5-10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and let them do work afterward.
All right, time now for our final matchup. Gardner Minshew versus the Saints front 7. Now, look, we know this is a favorable matchup for the New Orleans Saints. They've had a lot of success against Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew has passed for 274 yards and a touchdown in his last start versus New Orleans. Of course, that was when he was with the Eagles, coming in as
under
the backup.
Under the same coach.
Under the same coach, and that's something to keep an eye on. Dennis Allen was asked about it today and said they run pretty much a similar scheme. So we will see what happens there. Look, Cam Jordan has 2 sacks and 2 passes defended in the last road meeting. Demario Davis now aims for his 3rd in a row on the road with a pass defended. He had 2 passes defended in the last meeting. And Carl Granderson, who has been just the bright spot on this defensive line, had his 8th tackle for a loss of the season and 2nd career fumble recovery in week 7, and he now aims for his 3rd in a row on the road with a sack and 4th in a row overall with a tackle for a loss. To me, the Saints lose this game if they don't win this matchup, but I don't think the Saints have any issue
if they don't
winning
win this matchup enough. Yeah. Look, we saw them tear Gardner Minshew apart, but Minshew has played well. As you mentioned, the Colts are one of the top scoring teams in the NFL. They posted like 30 points on Cleveland last week. I did not expect to see that happen before they lost in the final seconds. But Gardner Minshew has 8 giveaways in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago it was 3 interceptions and 1 lost fumble. Last week it was 3 lost fumbles and an interception. And shout out to our old colleague Joel Erickson, who now covers the Colts for the Indianapolis Star, and then Rod Walker, who also covers the Saints, pointed out Joel's stat. But I had to steal it from both of them because 27 career starts at quarterback for Gardner Minshew and 28 career fumbles. There's more career fumbles than
How
games
bad is
started.
That? Yeah.
So Carl Granderson needs to feast. The defensive linemen for the Saints need to get there, and they need to take advantage of it. The Colts, as a team, are, I believe, tied for 4th or tied for 5th in total turnovers this season.
Look, it's still going to be a challenge in Indianapolis. The Saints are going to have to bring their hard hat and, be ready to be able to score points, because if there's one thing this Colts offense has proved this year, it's that they are going to put up at least 20 points in this contest. They've done it week to week. We will be right back after this short break. Coming up, we will get into our money segment, our question of the day, and we have a fun little segment special for Halloween where we will be giving some of the Saints players Halloween costumes right after this.
Score big with the kickoff combo at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Each comes with fried shrimp, garlic herb fries, and your choice of soft-shelled crab, our famous thin-fried catfish, or traditional catfish, starting at $10.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
No loan payments for 90 days with local financing from Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union on your next auto, boat, RV, ATV, or motorcycle. That's right, no loan payments for 90 days when you close your loan by December 31st. Jefferson Financial offers easy-to-use online applications, fast decisions, and local personalized service. The financial products you want with the convenience you deserve. We are Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Turo, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Mobile Turo Hospital studio. Time now for our moment of the day presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. We heard it today again. Look, Dennis Allen is tired of being asked about the growing pains on offense. He said, plain and simple, they just have to be done with them. So the question is, you have to be done with them until what? And when is that finally up? So when is the moment going to come when if the offense doesn't figure it out this Sunday, then what?
That was one of my favorite answers from Dennis Allen this week. Everybody always wants to hear certain words from him, and it was just he didn't even elaborate on it.
Nope.
So, somebody asked, you said you expected growing pains with Derek Carr in this offense. Some of that was to be expected. Now 7 weeks, he goes, it has to end. It's over. The time is done for that, or whatever he said. It was just a short, sweet answer. Derek Carr said something similar.
Yep.
I'm glad they recognize it. I'm glad they're not sugarcoating it and saying it's only week 7.
Absolutely.
It's 4 losses in the last 5 games. They do say every once in a while, we're still 3-4, we're still only 1 game out. But that's what gives you hope for the future, that if you do turn things around, it's still all there in front of you. It is 1-4 in the last 5 games, and I think this entire building feels that. The or else what? I think that's the hardest thing about this team, though, right now is because the easy answer is fire Pete Carmichael or give someone else play-calling duties. But I think we especially saw last week that one wasn't on Pete Carmichael. That was on execution. Position coaches need to be better with these receivers running the right routes. Derek Carr needs to make better decisions. The offensive line needs to be doing a better job, especially in the run game now after it was pass protection earlier. So replacing Pete Carmichael would be like, yeah, we know we have to do something, and we're proving that we're not going to settle for this. But that doesn't necessarily answer it. So I think whatever they did in conversations, FaceTime calls, quarterbacks working receivers after practice, it felt like the practices were a little longer this week. Whatever they're doing in meetings, stop these stupid communication errors that are just wasting plays. So Derek Carr is thrown to an empty spot on the turf. Get rid of those. Get rid of those. Whoever's fault those are, if they continue, get rid of that person, or change that person's responsibilities. That, to me, is the most debilitating thing going on right now.
Yeah, can't have it. Look, the one thing the offense is doing well is when they're in the hurry-up, they've seemed to have found something there. They are money in the hurry-up, which gets to our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. How do they now find a way to incorporate that in the game plan Sunday? We had a chance to talk with Eric McCoy and Derek Carr about that this week, that, look, you can maybe go up to the line of scrimmage and have 2 plays ready. Derek Carr even mentioned that there's different ways to incorporate it throughout the flow of the game. I tried to ask him why he liked it or why that works for him specifically as a quarterback. No answer. But he obviously has the answers. He's not giving them to us yet, but how do they now incorporate that?
Derek Carr did give a clue, though, and he said a lot of that stuff is training camp stuff that we've got down pat.
Yep.
And it's not like the game planning stuff that we put in during this week. Now, that could be a little insulting to Pete Carmichael and play calling. But the other thing I take from that is we've talked about the idea of simplifying this offense. Simplifying doesn't mean don't be creative. Simplifying doesn't mean don't use motion. Simplifying doesn't mean don't run a jet sweep with Rashid Shaheed. But what I like about the idea of if they're going to their plays that everybody just knows so they can do it quickly, it means it's the stuff they've got down pat. It means it's core principles that they probably installed in OTAs, again in minicamp, again in training camp. Do the stuff you're good at where everyone is doing it at full speed and no one's screwing up their assignment. And guess what? Then it looks good. So whatever is throwing you off when you're using a new combination of offensive linemen every week, if you're asking Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave to do too much in year 2 and know all the subtleties that Derek Carr's expecting, and then you go into the 2-minute hurry-up where you said, we went back to the stuff we were doing all training camp, and it looked like they looked in training camp, build off of that. They can't do the hurry-up the whole time, but there is something there, obviously, that they should be able to build off of.
Somebody who knows how to run this offense effectively is Drew Brees. We are going to bring him up in our question of the day. After this segment, I want you guys to sit tight for that because I love this question that we got from a fan. But first time now for our fantasy segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Are you starting the Saints defense this week?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's 2 ways that you can score fantasy points. One is by shutting down an offense. As you said, Indianapolis is scoring a lot more points than I think people realize. But another one is forcing turnovers. And we just talked about Indy gives the ball away as much as anyone in the league. Gardner Minshew has been a turnover machine in recent weeks since he took over for Anthony Richardson. So, yeah, I absolutely would like to start the Saints defense. Another person, as I mentioned before, I want to get Michael Thomas in my lineup this week. That's more gut than knowing that he's the guy that's going to exploit this game plan. But he's way overdue, and he's like just chomping at the bit saying, I want to just like force the issue and fix this offense for us.
Not only does it feel like that, he sounds like it in the locker room. You go on the guy's social media, he's constantly posting these motivational things on his Instagram story that just leads you to believe that he wants to take over this offense and really be a part of the reasons why they get back on track. You got to get on the ball first.
Yeah. Well, how about that? The one fade that worked last week, it almost looked like an interception by Michael Thomas. But he was like, I'm catching this ball.
But Michael Thomas caught that ball. The reason why I say Michael Thomas caught that ball, if you watch that slow-mo version, he barely just got – I mean, the talent to make that catch, drop both feet down, and you're in for the touchdown is such a challenging play. We see it time and time again each weekend, wide receivers struggling to make that play. But because it's Michael Thomas, he's there and he's able to make it. But maybe we have one week where the offense doesn't look like it's just so hard to get something going. That's the one thing that we continue to talk about when we're in the
Why
press
does it
box.
look so hard?
How many times do we say that? When we look at each other, we're like, can we just have one successful drive, maybe coupled by another one? I just don't get it, why it's just so challenging for this offense.
Well, yeah, and look, they scored 24 and got inside the – how close were they when they couldn't score on those final plays, the fades and the
they were pretty close, the one to Foster Moreau.
They may have gotten inside the 10 a fourth time, could have been 31 points. That's enough points for a game, but a lot of those happened in such a flurry that it was 2.5, 40 minutes of absolute nothing. But, yeah, that's all you need is – 5 scoring drives, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. We're not asking for 40, 30.
Derek Carr has to figure out his red zone woes as well. I don't know what happens for him when he gets into that portion of the field, but somebody that could potentially help. We mentioned Drew Brees. Our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Question of the day: is there any reason Drew Brees couldn't be brought in as an offensive consultant or even as an assistant? This is something that we were actually talking about off camera this week, and it'd be more of a, can you humble yourself, or is your pride too big to call the former quarterback and pick his brain and get insight for him? And also, too, for Drew, would he even want to?
Right.
Is this a guy who wants to just move on and let Derek Carr take over this offense and kind of let them move on? To me, Drew Brees had so much success, and you saw the pain in his face anytime they cut away to him when he's watching a Saints game. To me, I don't think it hurts anything reaching out to Drew Brees and being like, hey, man, I am struggling in this offense that you pretty much built. What are some of the things that you're seeing that maybe just these 1-2 things that can be fixed, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is, though, pick his brain, yes, of course, and especially since he was at this last game, and I'm sure they have. I'm sure he's very, very close with Pete Carmichael. They text each other all the time, and I'm sure all along the way there might be a thing like, hey, what worked for you on this? Or hey, can you take a look at this and tell us, how to make this work better? Those kind of conversations probably do happen. Bringing him in some sort of official capacity to part-time coach, Drew Brees isn't going to do that. Coaching is a dedication. If you're going to do it right, you're going to work 100-hour weeks or whatever you're going to do. And look, maybe Drew Brees will consider that, but I think there's a reason you see Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in broadcast booths. You don't see them being like, yeah, now that I've finally retired and given my all to the sport, sorry family, I'm going to go work 100-hour week. So bless the coaches that we do, tear apart for not getting the job done. But that's a lot to ask of Drew. But picking his brain, of course, especially when he just saw it firsthand in the last game. And frankly, we've talked about John Gruden a lot. I guarantee you there are texts and phone calls, even if you're not hiring him to be the offensive coordinator
Those
of the
conversations
team.
are definitely
You are having
happening.
conversations with every Drew Brees, John Gruden, whoever can help. There's no pride getting in the way of finding something that works.
Yeah, and I think Drew Brees is one of those people, too. He would hate to be around a football field and not be the one throwing the football. I think that would drive him nuts. I don't think he could stand out there.
It's probably hard for him to explain it to. Yeah, this is all you have to do is just read the entire defense.
You know what he would do? He would be, when you go get a golf lesson or something, or you ask your parents for help when you were little growing up, and they're just like, give it to me, I'll just show you, and I can do it better.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably how he would coach.
How Drew would do that. I could see that just happen like that.
They also, there's a lot of former Saints quarterbacks who have volunteered their services. Chase Daniel, JT O'Sullivan. JT O'Sullivan got invited into the meeting room by Derek Carr this week. I wonder if he'll take him up on that.
I seriously doubt that based on what the backlash we have seen on social media. All right, I am so excited for this topic today. I know Nick is really bummed to not be here for this. Halloween is his favorite holiday. He is not here. We are at PJ's Coffee that is actually all dressed up behind us for Halloween, so get in here and come get yourself a holiday drink. All right. I saw this segment on SEC Network. We're stealing it. I don't even care. It was such an awesome segment. We are doing Halloween costumes. We are picking 3 Saints players and essentially picking what their costume would be based on what they are doing so far through the 2023 season or what we have seen from them in their career. Mike's going to go first.
All right. Here we go. Graphics ready. I'm starting with Derek Carr as
Batman.
The Robert Pattinson Batman. I don't know if you saw this movie last year. So there's a new spin on Batman. First of all, it's the dark eyes. Derek Carr has made fun of this himself. It looks like there's some like black paint around the eyes or whatever. It adds to that, gloomy mystique, the demeanor. So immediately he's ready to wear that costume. But the thing about this Batman is, it's still a compliment. He's still heroic. But you see him fighting through it. You hear the clunky boots. You see the bruises. You see the emotional toll it's taking on this Batman to be this hero. So Derek Carr is we're wiping away the mystique of it and letting you know it's tough to be a superhero. So I like that comp for him.
Love
My second
one
is who do we have up next? Oh, this is a shout out to DJ.
No.
This is a shout out to DJ.
Oh yeah.
I thought DJ, I would love putting this graphic together. When Colin Saunders called Brian Brzee the 6'5" Gerber baby, it was his favorite moment, I think, of the entire training camp. And I would love to see Brian Brzee embrace it and go full. I don't know how you wear a Gerber baby costume, but maybe a onesie of some sort would be wonderful. And last but not least, Colin Saunders, again, the best, one of the best quotes on the team, as Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
He said it twice this week. He's gunning for Taysom. He wants the role of most versatile player on the team. He said actually maybe most versatile player in the league because he has now played 5 different positions in the NFL, including running back, tight end, and fullback, linebacker, and defensive line. And I just wanted to talk again. I wasn't on the show when you guys talked about Colin Saunders playing fullback. It was probably my favorite moment of the season so far.
It was something different. It was something new. It was something exciting for the first time in a while on offense. All right, getting to my picks. We start with, I believe, Marshawn Lattimore.
Oh, no, we got
This is Nick's picks.
This is a Nick pick.
Okay,
so.
well, no, you're good, Edwin. We could stay on that.
We'll stay on this.
All right, Mike, you've got Nick's picks for him.
Nick's got Demario Davis as the Incredible Hulk. Probably something about defying the age process, I assume, leads to that.
Yeah.
Indestructible. Who else do we got for Nick? Wolverine, Michael Thomas. I think that's
Love
another
that. That's
another
great.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah.
The mindset.
Okay.
If you're familiar with Wolverine, and we just talked about all the things that makes Mike special, and I like this one. Now, DJ influenced this pick as well. Tyron is a rocket raccoon. Poor Tyron. He keeps getting compared to what would you say, a raccoon and a honey badger are in the same family.
Hey, look, they're
here's
feisty.
DJ's detailed explanation. Now, he says, people might underestimate Rocket Raccoon as well, but he's a master military technician, a leader, the pilot, a genius engineer, technician, expert marksman. And so he takes all of those qualities and it helps him lead. Sort of an underestimated but feisty superhero.
Yeah. All right, hopefully mine are next. Let's go ahead and hit that. Marshawn Lattimore, Iron Man. Dude is Mr. Reliable. Time and time again, when the game is on the line, who can you count on? 23. He's always going to be there. He shuts down wide receivers. He has made wide receivers non-existent, putting them on planets. I won't say that for the Mike Evans game this year, even though Marshawn Lattimore had a great game against Mike Evans. And Mike Evans, to his credit, is a really, really great wide receiver, and he's going to win some battles. That's the only time I saw Marshawn not being just like the dominant lockdown corner. But dude is Mr. Reliable. He's Iron Man. All right, Rashid Shaheed. You guys could guess this one. Come on. Flash.
You should have to pick
Speedy.
another one.
But
that was too easy.
Well, the reason why I picked Flash in a lot of these comics are super young, the character. And because they're super young, still going through some growing pains. We've seen Rashid Shaheed kind of struggle on some of these routes. And with a new quarterback, it hasn't been as smooth. So given Rashid Shaheed, yes, he's got the speed, but still young and still got some things to figure out. Last one. I love this one. Cam Jordan as Dr. Evil. Is there not a more perfect costume for Cam Jordan? I hope he sees this and actually wears this with Nikki and the kids. How funny would this be for their Halloween costumes? But look, the reason why he's Dr. Evil, you always have to plan for Cam Jordan. Look, he is a guy who has been solid for the defensive line. He's maybe had a more quieter season just because Carl Granderson has just been the guy on the defensive line who has been making just all of these plays. But you cannot forget Cam Jordan on the other side. He is somebody who's going to sneak in some things, always hunting the quarterback. He's going to joke with you about it, too, as Dr. Evil kind of does, throw in some one-liners, some jabs here and there. Cam Jordan threw a little jab at the offense potentially this week in one of the press conferences. But, yeah, Cam Jordan is Dr. Evil this Halloween.
I like it. Sack force fumble for Cam this week?
Has to now. After that? Come on.
If he does this afterward, or whatever the Dr. Evil, then he'll know he's watching. Yeah. We'll know he's watching.
All right, time now for our game predictions. I think this is a pretty easy one for me. They're going to affect Gardner Minshew in such a way that I think they are not going to get to the 20 points that they typically have been week after week. And because
Indy
of that,
won't get to 20.
Indy, yeah. And because of that, I think the Saints will be able to put up enough on offense to win. I feel better about this week than I did Jacksonville and Houston.
I agree that I feel better about this week than I did Jacksonville, Houston. It's really hard to pick the Saints to win, though. And the biggest problem is I think the two things that would work in the Saints' favor would be to force Gardner Minshew into some turnovers and to slow down Indy's running game. But to do those two things, I think you have to play with a lead. And I just don't believe the Saints will be playing with a comfortable lead in this game. Like they did go to New England less than a month ago.
Oh, it's not going to be an easy win if it is.
So it's hard for me to pick the Saints to win. Indy's been on a little roll. I can't pick the Saints to win, but I'm not betting $1 on either one of these teams. That's probably several games in a row where I've said that, where I wouldn't give either one of these teams 3 points in the point spread.
Well, we'll see what happens. We will be heading to Indianapolis this weekend, and, of course, we will have our live pregame show from Indy around 9:30 Central Time. We will be public on YouTube for about 15 minutes taking your questions, and then for the rest of the show, probably about 30 minutes after that 15 minutes, we are going to go to our private link, which is just on NewOrleans.Football. Don't go to YouTube. Go to NewOrleans.Football at the very beginning of the show if you are a member, and you will be able to watch the entirety of the show. Get your questions in now on our website. We will be looking at those and documenting them and answering as many questions as we can on our live pregame show. And Nick should be there in Indianapolis with me, and we will see you guys in Indy on Sunday. We'll see you guys next time.